Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And today we're getting into a little bit of a sad video. Today, I just got news on the media that the influencer or political speaker, or whatever you want to call him as, Charlie Kirk, has passed away. He was assassinated, actually. And I just want to kind of reflect on the times that we're living in. Obviously, everyone's going to be speaking about how tragic it is and this and that, and 100% condolences go out to the family and all that. But we're in a space right now where it's actually everything is very upside down. And what this means, especially for the US and society in general, that we're getting to a place right now in time where if somebody's beliefs are different than yours, and just open speech, and we have a lot of those now, people who go up in front of groups. So this happened in front of a campus. And what's interesting is that you got a lot of people, a lot of influencers, whether they're mainstream political or some of them are just social influencers on social media, who speak in front of large crowds and do things of that sort. And knowing that they can be targeted now for assassination just openly, shows that we're in a critical time where we really, it's dangerous. It's dangerous for people to have their views, their beliefs, and just be able to be open out there and talk in a public space. It's really mind blowing. And, we've been seeing things kind of build up to this kind of direction. Someone did try to assassinate President Trump earlier. I believe that was last year, because we're in 2025 right now, obviously, of the recording of this video. And I believe that was last year. Or was that in January? I'm not 100% sure, but it was around that time frame, not too long ago. And, these are things that may have occurred in the past, many years back. But for us to be in a place now where things are very chaotic, with the fact of the push and pull of the both Democratic and Republican political belief system, in terms of just people's views and period outside of politics. It's a very touchy subject now, that we're in this space where a lot of people are so angry over whether their views are being heard or not, that it's almost like a bomb that's waiting to explode. And we're starting to see that now, where things are happening that are causing this type of level of destruction, where people are like, okay, we're willing to go and assassinate people. And then also, mind you too, that we're in a space right now where there's more emotionally disturbed people out there in the world now than there probably ever was before, especially in the US, because we don't really have a lot of structure here. So everyone's free to think and feel how they want. But with that comes more people who are in need of help for their mental issues, and no one's trying to help them because it's viewed upon as freedom of thought or freedom to be however you want to be. And I'm not even talking about specifically views, but I mean that if somebody is the type of person who gets aggravated or angry or violent at the smallest things, sometimes it's just viewed as that's that person's personality trait, or whatever the case is, because we're in a world now where everything is just medicated. So that's the answer to things. So the idea has come full circle of, if someone's got a mental issue, just give them medication. And we're in this space now where we're such in a high place of tolerance for mental illness that we sometimes don't even view it as mental illness. Someone who's willing to shoot somebody because they don't like what they're saying is a mental illness. That is a problem. Some people who might feel strongly about certain views might try to justify it and go, oh, well, but that person shouldn't have said that. They shouldn't have felt this way. They shouldn't have blah, blah, whatever the case is. Those people, they themselves are borderline, have mental issues. If you still think it's okay to assassinate someone because you don't like what they're saying, that goes into a whole nother level of chaos, where if we had that level of chaos on both sides of it, everybody being that way, not even to say political sides, but just in both sides of it, in terms of the people who wish harm on others, that would think it's okay for someone saying things they don't like and harming them, versus the ones who don't think it's okay. But if we just had it playing out Wild West, everyone's just allowed to go kill each other, a lot of people who feel safe dishing out that type of harm would really be scared if they had to deal with people dishing that back out to them, which is why you have a lot of people who don't like being in, unsafe areas or whatever the case is, or where there's like a lot of crime or whatever the case is. Case in point, just simply saying that a lot of people who sometimes feel that way only feel that way because they don't think it's going to come back to them. But honestly speaking, it's really a sad time that this is the place that we're in, showing a climate of the times that we're in. And it's really crazy. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that people had said during the news report that he was speaking on something to do with trans rights or something within that category. I don't know specifically what. And I think that if he was shot for those reasons, I know I've seen him on different, not a lot. I don't know all that much about him, but I've seen him on sometime little podcasts here and there on social media where he's talking certain points. And whether you agree with him or not, and I think it's definitely a big difference between people who are going to agree with him that have families and little kids versus people who are going to agree with him or who disagree with him who probably don't have families and little kids. And I'm speaking from a standpoint of that on those topics that they said he was talking about in terms of trans. And I see a lot of podcasters and a lot of in the media, people start talking about that. And a little kind of brief understanding of things is, and this is as neutral of a point that I can really kind of say to this, is that, especially when it comes to those kind of topics, and I'm not trying to dive heavy into them, is that if somebody has the belief that that's what they want to be for themselves, whatever the case is, that's fine. And I get that there's a lot of details that go into that in terms of what makes a person feel validated, what makes them not feel validated. You could really go down the pipeline when it comes to all that. As far as someone just feeling like that's what they want to be and represent it as that's fine. That's one thing. It's a whole nother matter when people start trying to push it on others that's not for them or their lifestyle. Specifically when they start trying to target kids. You have to understand it is a targeting of kids because kids don't even have the rights to vote or do a lot of things. So the idea that a lot of people have against that idea of pushing that on them is that wait until they turn 18, or the old golden rule growing up was when you were out of your parents' household, not under their roof, you could do whatever you want. When you're under their roof, you have to go by their rules. And I think that's always been a fair statement because you are not paying your own bills. You're not whatever. You should have to live by the rules of the people who are taking care of you. Now, once you get out there and do your own thing, you can do your own thing. Once you get to that level of being able to pay your own bills and whatnot. But the point is that there's a lot of people who push for these new age rights and not even, I won't say rights, push the agenda of that someone has to be this way and they want to target other people's kids. And that's where it becomes wrong. They lose sight of the fact that you don't target anybody else's kids. And I'm specifying that because I think that's where a lot of, I've heard his talking points come to, not that I've listened to him a lot, but just a few things I've heard. And a lot of people just in general that I'm starting to see out there, as far as just like people who feel bothered with even like companies that support the idea of targeting kids with a lot of these kind of messages. And I think that's like, I'm honing on that because that's what they said the topic was that he was discussing was transgender stuff. And like I said, I don't know specifically what avenues of that he was touching on, but I'm just bringing a key point of what is really a salty point for a lot of people and a lot of families and a lot of parents is the idea that of trying to recruit kids, because the thing about it is anybody who's trying to do anything to someone else's kid, whether it's teach them, whether it's influence them, whether it's target them for, whether it's sexual behaviors, anything that's done to someone else's kid is considered wrong if that parent is not okay with it. It's considered, and when I use that in the sense that obviously I'm not talking about sexual things, is not a matter of being okay with, but in terms of what you're being taught, it's a matter of the parents being okay with it. Obviously, use common sense when I'm saying these things, but anything that comes towards your kids, any information or any harm or anything that comes to your kids has to be filtered through the parents at all times. And it's not right in society, period. I don't care who you are, what your thoughts are, to feel like you're allowed to influence someone else's kid, even if that kid is down for whatever it is that might be out there in the world to explore, because that could be drugs. And no one would say what's fair for that kid to go take drugs because he wants to take drugs. The balancing aspect of nature since the beginning of time has always been parents rule over their kids until their kids are old enough to be on their own. When they're able to be on their own, then they could do what they want. If the kids have to play the game until they're old enough to do what they want, then they have to do that. They abide by the rules until they get old enough. I've heard of some kids who they got to go to church every weekend until they get 18 and they're able to move out their parents' house. And now they go, you know what? I don't want that religion anymore. I don't want to go to church anymore. That's fine. But as long as they made it to an age where they can do that. Now, if their parents are okay with them being free in advance, that's fine. My point that I'm getting at is simply that if someone is willing to kill because another person's beliefs is that certain agendas should not be pushed down other people's throats, that is wrong. And I'm not trying to make the argument of whether his beliefs were right or wrong, because it's not about that. It's about the idea of that no one should be in fear of being killed or assassinated because they have thoughts and they want to speak those thoughts out loud. In 2025, if that's something we have to worry about, which there's been now, two major, viewed, publicized people who were either assassinated or attempted to be assassinated, speaking on the president, and then now Charlie Kirk. That's very sad and dangerous, and it shows the mental state we're in and the mental instability of the people who have mental issues out there, how rampant it is that someone would be able to think that that's okay to do that. We're really in a bad space. I even seen someone for the political views. I seen a video where, and I'm not gonna speak too much on it directly as far as like the details on this, though some people might know about it, but where a guy set himself on fire because he wanted to, he had some kind of political views, I don't know specifically what it was, that he wanted to prove, so he set himself on fire. At the end of the day, this is a show of mental instability, that people do crazy things like that. That's called crazy, because at the end of the day, when you do that, nobody's gonna care. They're not going to stand up and go, oh, he killed himself, we're gonna change these things. It doesn't work like that. You should be wise enough and smart enough and level-headed and not crazy to the point where you understand that the best way for you to make a change with your beliefs is sticking around to make those changes. Including you trying to assassinate somebody doesn't further your ability to change those things. You hurt it. It's the concept of someone being a martyr. You hurt that, and you actually take your beliefs 3 steps back, because you now showed that you are the evil that is trying to stop another belief. And it's not to say that one belief is better over another belief, but the moment that you attach hatred and evil to your belief by trying to assassinate someone else, you've now attached hatred and evil to that belief for other people. It'll be their representative. So if there's a positive, and in this case, like I said, I'm just going to bubble it as whatever the opposing beliefs were of Charlie. I'm not going to hound specifically on trans stuff. That was just came up because they said he was talking about that at that show. But we'll just say any opposing belief of Charlie's, if you fell into that camp, there could have been a person who had opposing beliefs and they were a nice, genuinely good person, and they have good points of why they believe in what they believe in, and maybe great talking points that they want to share with people. That innocent person, their view is now tainted by an assassin who holds up the flag of those opposing views and says, metaphorically holds up that flag and says, me representing these opposing views, we are completely sunk and diving into evil, and we are consumed by evil, and our evil is going to consume you. We are evil incarnate, and we're going to consume you. And now the other person who may have had opposing views to someone like Charlie, who was innocent and just wanted to speak their opinion, unfortunately now is associated with that type of evil by default. Not that they want it to be, but because there are crazy people out there who are doing that type of work, and now it's being attached to causes that it shouldn't be. So even if, say, a person was, and we'll go back to the trans thing for a second in that topic of conversation, even if there's someone who viewed it from a positive standpoint, because I've spoken to people who've had a positive standpoint on it, where they say, I agree, it shouldn't be pushed down the throat of kids. It shouldn't be blah, blah. Some people should be allowed to be what they are, but nothing should be thrown down the throats of kids. It shouldn't be taught in schools. It shouldn't be this and that and whatever. They're a little more neutral about it, which is fine. A more healthier way of viewing it. Somebody like that now, others now will view their entire movement as, you guys are evil now because of this. And so this is why it's so important that we don't have people being this crazy. And like I said, just reflecting on the state of the world that we're in right now. It is really sad times. Please, everybody, put your comments down below. I'd love to have a dialogue on this, or anyone kind of bring up some things. I don't think anybody would agree that this is something that is right, regardless of someone's beliefs. But I also know that people who disagreed with Charlie Kirk's views are probably not going to stand up and say that they thought that this was justified, even if they thought that, because that would be crazy to even say something like that. But like I said, post your comments down below. I hope all you guys stay safe. Be careful when you go to any of these type of rallies or any of these kind of open talking meetups or whatever, because it definitely is a dangerous space. There is a lot of other podcasters out there too who have views that sometimes a lot of people don't agree with. I am going to say to all of you guys out there, and you know who you are, you set up your little tent, you do your stuff, you guys be careful as well, because now you're seeing the space that we're in. It is very dangerous. Really watch out for that. It's really dangerous times. You guys, as always, like, share, comment, be safe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.